Welcome back to Sit and See. I'm Dr. Jared Jones. My research specialties are ancient systems of meditation, Buddhist philosophy, the cognitive science of meditation, and the philosophy of science. I've also been a practicing Buddhist for about 20 years, mainly in the Gelug tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and been practicing Taoist meditation for about 5 years now. I'm on a bit of a mission to help lay people living in the real world understand how it is that you can train in a serious way in meditation and bring the skills of meditation into more and more and more of your actual real life. And as such, when you do retreats, for example, that you'll be able to take the benefits of those retreats into your ordinary activities, into your real life. Likewise, that from day to day, month to month, year to year, with the right set of skills, you can take the stuff you're getting on the cushion and take it into increasingly demanding, increasingly difficult circumstances. And as such, hopefully, these meditation practices you're working so hard on will begin to show much more fruit. So this endeavor is largely secular, actually. I have students who are Jewish. I have students who are different varieties of Christian, including Eastern Orthodox. And those students who have been with me a fair amount of time have shown real progress using the techniques that I teach. So hopefully, if you stumble upon this later or you happen to be coming through, I know that there's about 100 of you or so who tune in regularly, I think. These techniques you can also find described in much more detail along with the instructions for how to do them in the playlist that I have for mindfulness and meditation. It's attached to my profile here on YouTube, my channel. If you wanted to train a bit more hardcore, I also have a school course, but all of the information on the school course is available for free. I don't actually charge, but the people that are contributing through school are allowing me to teach everyone else for free. So it's a bit like a donation that allows me to teach the whole community, is one aspect. Another aspect is that through the school community that I'm building, once I have about 100 people, somewhere between 100 and 200, then financially, what I'd like to do is have this community work as sort of like a support network for people that want to do more serious and intense practice. So financially, most of us living in the real world, we have difficulty getting away from our lives for a week or 2 weeks, much to say nothing of 3 weeks or a month, right? And the big barrier quite often is not getting away in terms of time, it's getting away in terms of money. How are you going to cover the bills? How are you going to, cover the cost of the retreat, etc.? And so, if there was 200 of us and one of us wanted to go into retreat for a month and it was going to cost $2,000, that's $20 each. That's $10 each. So all things considered, we could send 12 of us per year into a month of retreat for like $10 extra a month, which is really fantastic, I think. We couldn't send everybody into retreat every year, but we could send a lot of us into retreat every year through supporting each other financially. So I'm building this network of people that want to support each other's more serious practice through the school course. Furthermore, I'm going to park my book there for a number of reasons, including the fact that I'd like to have a little more control over the book, and I'd like to be able to train people in that material a bit more seriously. And so the most detailed instructions that I have for meditation will be parked there eventually. But absolutely everything else that I have and that I offer is available for free somewhere else. So, yeah, basically, I don't charge for anything, and all the advice that's in my book I would give you for free. But on the internet, people take things, and you got to protect your intellectual property a little bit. Okay, friends. Well, let's see. So sit and see if some of you are new to the class. I don't know if any of the regulars are here. What we do is first, hey, Dylan. If any of the moderators are here, could you put the link to the meditation course materials that are available on YouTube in the chat? If not, I'll do it in a bit. Yeah, for those of you who are new, I teach basically 4 techniques spread over 5 different areas. So I teach intensive breath meditation, which allows you to pull your mind very rapidly out of ordinary activity and into focused concentration. To pool all of your attention, the bandwidth of your attention in one place really quickly, and then hold it there for a bit. And then I teach, once you can do that, there are other techniques that are better for making your mind more concentrated, more calm. So I teach another technique of a type of body scanning meditation to make the mind more calm. And I take that technique into standing and walking so that you can do it in more and more areas of your life. Then I teach a technique called Mahamudra, which is very similar to Zen practice, but it comes through the Indian and Tibetan lineages instead of the India to China lineages. And it gives you access to the fundamental types of consciousness that you have as a being. And those types of meditations, likewise, you can take into everything you do. You can take it into any activity. And then finally, I teach rumination meditation, which is practice coming through the Tibetan traditions, but you can also find it. You can find it in the Theravadan traditions. It's not called that. You might find it under the term bhavana. Basically, what it means is that you're using observation, logic, thinking something through to generate a new attitude or emotion or reaction to something like humility, loving kindness, compassion, patience, perseverance, willpower. So whatever your worst instincts are that are screwing up your life, you can start making progress against those worst instincts, which is really helpful, right? If you listen to the great masters, what they say is the greatest sign of progress in all of this mind training stuff is that the quality of your mind is better. You know? The quality of your mind is better and you have less negative emotions in the mind and less negative mental states. So if you do rumination meditation and you have less arrogance and instead you have more humility, that's the purpose of all of this. If you have less anger and more patience, or less anger and more loving kindness, that's the purpose of all this. You know, nirvana is maybe a ways off. So there's quite a bit of work we can do in between here and accomplishing the final goals of all of this. Okay. So Oates, social media. Oates, did you want to become a moderator on my streams as well? Or did you just want to maybe become a moderator on the Discord? Let me know in the chat. Okay. Oates Social Media asks, I've been working through the Foundation 1 and Foundation 2 course like I suggested. When would you suggest I move on to Foundation 3? So Foundation 3 is basically just an extension of your ability to hold the 5 points or the 6 directions. Okay, I'll add you as a moderator, Dave. Foundation 3 is just an extension of your ability to do holding the 5 points or the 6 directions or full body meditation while moving. So once you can maintain a pretty good quality of concentration on the 5 points or the 6 directions or full body meditation, then try it walking. And you'll probably need to walk much slower than you think to maintain, be honest with yourself. And if you have to walk like at a snail's pace, then walk at a snail's pace. And probably what you'll notice is if you can let's say that you can get this level of concentration seated. In the beginning, you'll get this amount of concentration standing, and it'll slowly get better until it's the same. Likewise, when you move from standing to walking, it'll drop back down again, and it won't be as good, and slowly you build it back up to being as good as as when you're seated or standing. And for those who are interested, for fellow sort of sutra and sutta nerds in the room, you can find this advice in the Pali Canon. The Buddha says you need to train in meditation sitting, standing, walking, and laying down. So this is right there in the oldest sources if you're into a historical, critical approach to all this, which actually I'm not, believe it or not. Despite the way that I make videos, I'm not actually compelled by that way of looking at all this. Okay. All right. So when do you move on to Foundation 3? When you can do Foundation 2. Then you start trying to get the tactile sensation part to work while moving. Likewise, when you move on to Foundation 4 and you start doing vision, for example, then you apply it backwards onto the previous stuff. So, maybe you do it seated first, and then can you get the vision to work while standing? Then can you get it to work while walking? Then can you get vision and tactile to work while standing and walking? So you build up these skills until eventually you can generate really, really clean, high quality concentration while doing whatever you're doing. Is this making sense? When I taught the course initially, I think I put a pretty big gap, like 2 months or something, between teaching Foundation 2 and Foundation 3. Even though, they're basically right next to each other, it really does behoove you to spend a lot of time getting your skills to work really well just standing still in one place, like 4 months or 6 months. But, there's no harm in trying it and going forward. And then you go, oh, yeah, I can't do this yet, and then you just go back to the previous step. And also you'll notice that your ability to do stuff goes like this, depending upon how your day is going. If your day goes too well or your day goes too badly, your skill will go like this and drop off. Because both excitement and depression or anxiety or anger interferes with your ability to do the practice. So you'll notice your practice will go like this. On days where not much happens, probably those are the days that you have the best practice. Yeah, slow and steady. I mean, you're rewiring you're rewiring your nervous system, There's some of you have mentioned in the school course, for example, that you've noticed that there are some side effects to Foundation 1, for example, where you get little headaches and stuff after you do the practice. So there are actually all of these effects that can happen from training and meditation that are like if you do too much before your system is ready for what you're doing, then your system feels uncomfortable because you're asking like a huge amount of bandwidth that is normally not used in that way to go and do certain things, and that is pretty demanding for your nervous system. And from a subtle physical substance standpoint, you're also learning to move your winds and things in a different way also. And so the Tibetans have this what they call meditation sickness, where if you do too much practice before you're ready, you actually end up, your nervous system's like sort of crunchy and you get irritable and you may even like need to sleep a lot. And anyways, so, do what you can do. It actually behooves you to do not more for the sake of more, but doing about 80% of what you think you can do and doing that to a very high quality. If that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. So I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Who was around for the premiere and the new video? Anybody? Oh, by the way, I'm going to put up the announcement soon, but since you guys are here, um, as I mentioned in the community section, I'm going to be interviewing an Advaita Vedanta practitioner as long as he's actually circles back and gets back to me like he said he would. And Tuesday at around 2 o'clock London time, I'm going to be interviewing the Shaolin practitioner that I mentioned. So he has a complete lineage of the 18 Lohan martial system and meditation system, which is like a complete system of both fighting, exercises to make your body suitable for meditation, and meditation practice coming out of the Shaolin tradition. So I'm going to be having hopefully a couple hours worth of conversation with him, and that'll probably be the first episode of the new podcast series. So the podcast is going to be called The Two Truths with Dr. Jared Jones. And the idea being that it will be me and one other person. And rather than debates and so forth and getting into the nitty gritty of what's different between various systems, the idea would be that people come on and they talk about how do you train in this stuff as a modern person living in the modern world, because all of us, regardless of tradition, are going to be struggling with some kind of ethical practice and some kind of meditation practice if you're doing any system where you turn the mind inwards. And so we're going to share that spiritual struggle in common. And I think there's just huge value in hearing from other human beings who are trying to do that, no matter what tradition you're in. And so the two truths, you know, maybe the one truth on my side in the spiritual struggle I'm engaged in, another truth on the other side in the spiritual struggle they're engaged in. Do they end up in the same place? I don't know, but we're at least both struggling to accomplish a lot of the same things along the way. So there's going to be some value, hopefully, in sharing that. Also, I hope to bring to the fore practitioners like Neil Ripsky, is who I'm interviewing on Tuesday, who have put in a huge amount of practice and carry how do I say, are carrying full lineages of actual practice. That as just as a human being, I don't want to go out of existence. So maybe one or two people who see that interview will reach out to him and want to go down the rabbit hole and do the whole system and become a lineage holder for that system. That would make me very happy. Okay. Earth Wombat, Zaid, we're going to probably do body scanning today. And we'll probably just do a long body scan today. When you find a tight spot during body scans, how do you release it? So if you, it's actually part of the instruction for body scanning is, generally speaking, there's a couple different methods. The one that I teach is that just by placing your attention there, you just sort of, as your attention is there, you just sort of ask that area to relax, and then you move on. Whether it relaxes or not is not your business. You place the attention there, become aware of tactile sensations, and the quality of the awareness is just sort of like calm, right? And if through applying that calm awareness to that area, it releases, great. If it doesn't, that's none of your business. You have a job to do. You carry on with the session. Now, if you weren't doing a session where you're scanning at a particular pace, because remember, what's the task we're doing here? The task we're doing is learning how to get our mind to go where we want it to go, when we want it to go there, for as long as we want it to go. So if you find a spot of pain and then your mind goes, I'm going to hang out here until I figure out how to fix this pain, and that's not what you set out to do, well, now you've lost the activity. You're doing something else other than you intended. So now it's no longer training. You're right back to the normal neuroticism. You're right back to your mind just chasing around whatever inclination it has. So having said that, if you want to sit down and specifically do a body releasing practice, the way that would work is For example, you would place your mind in a particular spot in the body, like my shoulder is really ripping today. So you place your mind in the shoulder, for example, in the area that's tight, and then just explore the areas that are adjacent to it, near it, but not where the pain is. And just place your awareness in those areas. And you don't have to do anything in particular, just hold your awareness in the areas that are around it, but not where the pain is. And quite often, the thing that's actually causing the pain is like somewhere between 2 inches and 6 inches away from where the pain actually is. And so you just sort of work your way around the area, holding your attention for, 3 seconds, 10 seconds in the tissue that's around the area that has pain and tension. Until the part of the body that has that pain and tension, or is causing the pain, ends up releasing or relaxing. Like I have pain between my shoulder blades at the moment, and even though the pain is over here, the actual thing that's causing the pain is over here, behind my shoulder. And if I can place my mind there and release it, the pain goes away between my shoulder blades. So, because our bodies are really complex, that like the way tissue gets stretched out, there might be pain over here, but the thing that's wrong, that's grabbing and pulling, is over here somewhere. My sister is a massage therapist, and she talks about that sort of thing all the time. And also our bodies are super weird. I don't know how many of you know this, but quite often you have pain. Like you could have pain here, but the problem is here because there's a set of nerves here that's getting irritated, and the pain gets referred down to somewhere else. So then you're like trying to figure out how to fix your elbow, but there's nothing wrong in the elbow. There's something wrong in the shoulder. So this is part of why actually spending so much time on the pain and getting nitpicky about the pain area and trying to fix it, it's kind of like a lost cause, because our bodies are very strange. It actually does you much better to just scan through the whole body with that calm awareness and just sort of give the whole body a wash using that calm, mirror-like awareness of tactile sensation. And stuff that's wrong over time will sort itself out. Okay. If there are no further questions, I would simply ask, if you're here, hit the like button, and that will help the algorithm know that this is something that people should see and that it's worth doing. And then we'll get going with our session for the day. You're welcome. So let's start with intensive breath. Quite a few of you have the instructions, but one or two of you may not. So I'm going to do very brief instructions. So breathe in, natural pace through the nose. Find a sensitive patch of skin inside one of the nostrils. You're going to breathe in, breathe out. When you get to the end of the out breath, you're going to count inside your head, saying the number loudly, forcefully in your mind. And if you can, also visualizing the number in front of you, about the size of your thumb, at the level of your, sort of between your eyebrows here, at the size of your thumb if you were to hold your thumb out in front of you. So right there, you'll see the number 1. Doesn't matter the font. You don't have to get nitpicky about it. You just it needs to be clear enough that you know it's a 1. That's all. And then let it go right away. And then you turn your attention immediately right back to the sensations of breath. Breathe in, breathe out. 2. Breathe in, breathe out. 3. Like this. So you're going to count from 1 to 7, and then 7 back down to 0. Since this practice is only 5 minutes, and thank you, Major General. Since This practice is only 5 minutes and it's extremely high intensity. Every ounce of your being put into the practice. Don't hold anything back. This is not like a be nice to yourself kind of practice. You're meant to bring 100% of your energy to it. And since we're not going to be sitting here very long, place your attention on the breath. And the only time you should pay attention to your body or move your body is when you get to zero. If you need to move your body, wait for zero. You know it's coming in a few breaths, right? You don't have to freak out if you feel some pain or some discomfort. You're like 2 minutes, you're like a minute away from adjusting the body. So just forget about it. Stay on the breath. Probably for most of you, you'll get through about 3 rounds of breathing, 1 to 7, 7 to 0, 3 times in the time that I provide for the practice. Some of you may do a little bit less, but that's okay. All right. So place your mind on those tactile sensations of breathing with great intensity at the very moment I say begin. The training for this is meant to give you the skill to be able to grab your attention with great force and go bang and bring it in right away. And that'll give you the ability to put your mind where you want to when you want to put it there, right? You're working out this muscle of being able to grab the attention and pull it in. Right? So here we go. Find that patch of skin. 3, 2, 1, begin. Place your mind in the left big toe. When I say place your mind in a particular area, you're not visualizing anything, you're not imagining anything, you're not labeling anything with words, you're not trying to figure out how it works. You're just becoming aware of the actual tactile sensations, the actual things you feel in that part of the body. That's all. As if your mind is a video camera and it's just recording the tactile sensations that are there as a third-party observer. Place your mind in the left big toe. Second toe. Third. Fourth. Pinky. Ball of the foot. Arch of the foot. Top of the foot. Heel. Into the ankle joint. Lower half of your calf. Upper half of your calf. Into the knee. Lower half of the thigh. Upper half of the thigh. And bring your mind into the hip on the left-hand side. Take the mind down to the right big toe. Second toe. Third. Fourth. Pinky. Into the ball of the foot. Arch. Top of the foot. Heel. Ankle. Into the lower half of your right calf. Upper half. And into the knee joint. Lower half of the thigh. Upper half of the thigh. and into the hip joint. Front of the pelvis. The back of the pelvis, including the buttocks. Find the sacrum between the two hip bones. Travel down the sacrum to the tailbone. And just not with the same amount of force, but still that sense of squeezing your awareness. Just sort of squeeze the awareness into the tailbone. Slide forward to the anus, perineum. Scan the sexual organs and come to rest when you're finished at the tip or the most sensitive point. Okay, slide back from there, backtrack to your tailbone. Come up the sacrum. Come to the top of the hips. And this is where your waist begins. From the top of the hips, depending on the size of your body, maybe 4 inches, 5 inches. That next zone where the bottom of your ribs, there's a gap between the ribs and the hips. That and a little bit of the ribs, that lower area is your waist. So just draw sort of like a line around the body as if you have one big belt on that's 5 inches thick or so. And when you hear me say the waist belt, that's what I'm talking about. So bring your attention to the back of the waist belt. And the front of the waist belt. Now from the middle of the front of the waist belt, let your attention slide up to the solar plexus area. And that area, once again, about 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches between the top of the waist to the solar plexus. If you were to just draw a line, 2 lines around the body at 4 inches, 5 inches thick, 6 inches thick, that's the area where the diaphragm is stretching around the body, and that's what I call the diaphragm belt. So stretch your awareness across the front of the diaphragm belt. And the back of the diaphragm belt. In the middle of the diaphragm belt in the back, just slide up the spine until you reach the large bone that connects the neck to the spine. So that next maybe 6 or 7 inches, that is your what I call your chest belt. So once again, if you drew 2 lines or had a piece of fabric that was 5 or 6 inches thick and you wrapped it around the top of the chest, that's what I'm talking about when I say the chest belt. So your shoulder blades, in my way of thinking, those are part of your shoulders and the mobility of your shoulders, more so than your back. And so if you can, try to get your awareness underneath the shoulder blades and be aware of the cavity of the chest, the ribs and bones of the chest in the back, along with the spine in the center. From that large bone that connects the neck to the spine down to the top of the diaphragm belt. So for those of you who are interested, this is the cavity in which your lungs and your heart are located. Not so important, but stretch your mind aware now around to the front. So in the front, that'll be from the nape of the neck between the collarbones to the top of the solar plexus. So once again, not including the collarbones, which are, in my way of thinking, part of the mobility of the shoulders more so than the chest. But underneath the collarbones, the top of the chest cavity, if you can get your mind in there, as well as the front, the remainder of the front of the chest and the sides of the chest is what I mean when I say the front of the chest. If you can't get your mind into all those areas, it's fine. Just get your mind into where you can on the front of the chest. Okay, now bring your awareness to the top of the left shoulder. The front of the left shoulder, which is going to include that collarbone on the left-hand side. The left side or the outside of the left shoulder. And then the back of the left shoulder, which will include that whole scapula, that whole shoulder blade. And then the armpit. Now bring the awareness down to what I call the bicep region, which is just from where the shoulder ends to your elbow, so that whole area. So not just the bicep, but all the way around the arm. And then bring the mind inside the elbow as best you can, inside the joint. Into the forearm, wrist, the palm and the back of the hand. And then into the thumb. And as I name each digit, since we're doing a detailed scan, as I name each finger rather, the way that you scan a finger to get all the components, each of your fingers has 3 joints and 3 bones. So you place the mind in the first joint, then the first bone, second joint, second bone, third joint, third bone, which includes the fingertip, and so on. So do your thumb, joint, bone, joint, bone, joint, tip, pointer, joint, bone, joint, bone, joint, tip. I'll let you repeat that pattern. Middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, Now move to the top of the right shoulder. The front of the right shoulder, including that collarbone. Outside. And the back of the shoulder, including the scapula slash shoulder blade. And into the armpit. Bicep region. Elbow. Forearm. Wrist. Palm and the back of your hand. Thumb. Pointer. Middle. Ring. And pinky. Now bring the mind to the lower third of the neck. When I say the lower third of the neck, what I'm referring to is that cone of tissue that connects the lower part of the neck to the trunk of the body, to the chest belt, and to the shoulders. So there's very, very complex stuff going on there. You don't need to be aware of it in great detail, but you want to be aware of that entire cone that connects to the top of the shoulder blades, the top of the shoulders, top of the chest, underneath the collarbones. So just try to get your mind in that entire cone of stuff that makes up the connections connecting the neck to the trunk. The middle part of the neck. And the upper part of the neck. Into the joint at the top of the skull. And then into the scalp on the back of your skull. Scalp on the left side. Scalp on the right hand side. To the ear on the right hand side. Outside. Inside. Ear on the left hand side. Outside. Inside. Now move to the forehead. Left eyebrow. The left eye. And the eye socket. Right eyebrow. Right eye. Eye socket. Your nose on the outside. Inside the left nostril. Inside the right nostril. Now your left cheek, and I usually include the temple with the cheek. Right cheek. Not yet the lips, but the upper lip area. Not yet the lower lip, but the area below the bottom lip and the chin. Now your top lip. Bottom lip. The skin inside your mouth. As best you can, go through each tooth. Very, very brief visit to each tooth. Roof of your mouth. Underneath your tongue. And your tongue. Concentrate your awareness on the tip of your tongue. And then just slide backwards across the tongue to the throat until you become aware of the throat. Straight from the throat, move your awareness up through the top of the head to the scalp. And if there's a particularly sensitive area on the top of the scalp or an area where you feel a little bit of movement or tingling or something like this, place your attention there. Otherwise, just place your attention on the back third of the scalp, just in a sort of general area. It's not a particular point, it's an area. Now let your awareness travel down from there, across the back of the scalp, down the back of the neck, down the spine, past the chest, past the diaphragm, until you get to about the middle of your waist region. From there, just let your awareness move from the spine into the center of the lower abdominal cavity. And your mind may try to escape from there because there's nothing to grab onto in terms of sensations in there. But that's okay, just do your best. And then while your mind is, as best you can, sort of resting in the lower abdomen, just let your breath, without taking unnaturally large breaths and without stretching your abdomen, because that'll make your abdomen change its shape and you'll end up with a big martial arts belly that is actually not helpful. Just breathe into the lower abdomen a normal amount of breath without stretching your abdomen to an unnatural size. Just let the breath go low. And we'll do about 10 breaths and do them. If your breath is already very slow, then just leave it at the pace it is. If the breath is still moving a bit quickly, then slow it down a little bit. And we'll do about 10 breaths by my count, which will probably be a while, so it might be more for you guys. Okay. So someone was asking if your nervous system's a bit overstimulated, how to get more parasympathetic. Doing that lower abdominal breathing is very beneficial if you want your mind to become sort of more naturally calm in general. Because as a biological entity, we breathe low and deep and slow when we're calm. So you can trick your mind into being more calm by breathing low and deep and slow artificially. Your mind will mimic what your body is doing in terms of the signals that your mind and your body are sending each other. So if you're looking for a relatively quick way to regulate your nervous system, you can do lower abdominal breathing like that, very slow, very low. Just don't stretch your belly out, otherwise you end up with a big sort of round karate belly. Yeah, and you don't have to do a body scan that long to do that practice. You could do, a little bit of breath here, a pretty quick body scan, and then do 10 minutes of lower abdominal breathing like that. If you were having a real bad time of it, let's say. Okay, questions? Nice. Really? No questions today? My goodness. I answered all the questions. Oh, okay, my friends. Well, if there are no practice related questions, oh, yeah. Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, the mug. This was a gift kind of from my wife. My wife likes Halloween themed things, and I think she got this for herself. And then I saw it and I stole it from her, which is very bad karma, of course, but now it's mine. um, so, Ajad, in the beginning, it's a bit like well, there's no need to use a bunch of analogies. Yeah, it's sort of like you can't see into certain areas. They're just dark. And then the more scanning you do, and also one of the things you can do to supplement your body scanning practice is the areas that are dark. Sometimes you just sit down and you hold your mind in that area for a while. You know, you don't want to do this, which is you scan, scan, scan. You get to an area that you can't see, and you go, "Why can't I see in here?" And just hang out there for 5 minutes and then carry on, because that's not what you set out to do. Remember, we're training our minds to do what we told the mind to do, when we told it to do it, for as long as we told it to do it. So if you set a certain intent to do a certain practice during the session, do that practice and don't divert from it and do something else. Otherwise, you're just chasing your mind around again, doing what your mind thinks it should be doing instead of what you told it to do. So this is very important. Having said that, you can sit down with the intent that you're going to do a body scan, and when you find an area that's dark, that you're going to spend 5 minutes there. I would say no, actually. So what I recommend is you do enough intensive breath meditation that the quality of your mind is that it already has a pretty high degree of focus naturally by the time you place it somewhere. So this would be more clear if you study the 9 stages of meditation. So the first 2 stages is just being able to get your mind somewhere and hold it there for, I don't know, call it 10 seconds, 20 seconds. And then most of the time your mind will run around and not do what you told it to do, but it's relatively easy to bring it back as soon as you recognize that it's gone off. So those are the first 2 stages of meditation. That's basically all that I use the breath for, in terms of the practices, the way I teach them. Also, obviously, if you're having a bad day or a good day and you can't get your mind to the session because you're too excited or too depressed, intensive breath is really good for this. However, when you start doing body scanning, you should already have enough experience from breath practice that the quality of your attention doesn't require as much force in order for all of your attention to pool in one place. Does that make sense? You've done enough practice so that simply when you turn your mind to it, it pulls in. And likewise, you tell your mind, go to my hand now, and it goes, and it all gels here, or a lot of your bandwidth of attention gels around the hand. So in a sense, the intensity is the same, but the effort is different because you don't have to exert the same amount of effort because you have, think about it like working out, right? The muscle that you need to rip your attention out of the world and onto the breath is really weak. So you work out that muscle doing deadlifts, max out bench presses, pulling it in, right? And then once those muscles are strong, pulling that in is like no problem. And so you're still pulling it in with the same amount of intensity, but the amount of effort to put your whole being into putting it into one place is less. So the quality of the effort changes, the quality of the intensity stays the same. Does that make sense? And because the effort is less, the effort itself creates a certain amount of movement in the mind. So once the effort becomes less to maintain the activity, then the quality of the meditation goes from being sort of slightly sort of like this, a little bit sort of frenetic, to being a little bit like this. There's a little bit less movement because there's less of your mind working on just the effort of doing the activity, and there's more of your mind doing the actual thing you asked it to do, instead of just trying to not forget that you set your mind on a particular task. So it has the same amount of intensity, but the effort and the quality of the effort becomes a little bit less, because in stages 2 and 3 of training and concentration, your mind mostly goes where you told it to go, and it mostly stays where you told it to stay. So the quality of the effort is different. I hope that helps. It'll make sense experientially when it happens. Yes, exactly right. If your mind starts wandering and doing something you didn't tell it to do, then the amount of intensity that you need to hold it on the activity is more than you're putting in. But also, you can think about it like this. Stuff is going to occur in the mind, and you can't actually make it stop in the beginning. So if you're holding it on the object, you're holding it on the hand, right? And then a thought occurs, but as soon as it occurs, your mind goes, that's not what I'm doing, and it comes right back. Then you're at the 3rd stage of meditation, where as soon as your mind gets distracted, you know it's been distracted, and you bring it immediately back, which is exactly what body scanning is good for. Body scanning is fantastic for dealing with the problems that occur on the 3rd stage of meditation, which is called patch-like fixation. The mind notices immediately when it's run off, and it comes right back, like you, almost like a movie reel. Boom, 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 and then there's a hole, and you patch it up, and then you carry on with the film, right? Okay. How should one be positioned? You can be positioned basically however you want. I recommend sitting up, but you can be on your couch, basically wherever you're comfortable. The more comfortable your body is, the easier it's going to be to keep your mind on the activity. If your body's uncomfortable, it's going to be harder to keep your mind on the activity. So sit however is comfortable. The only really key thing is that your spine is straight. And it shouldn't be artificially military straight because that's not comfortable. It should be upright, but every bit of tension that isn't required to hold it where it is should be let go. So that takes a little bit of time and work, but if you do body scanning, it's it I don't want to just say it just happens, but it gets a lot easier to just sort of to realize what tension you don't need and what tension you need to hold the body in place. So to go back to becoming aware of stuff that you're not aware of, hopefully without sounding too strange, body scanning, if you do a lot of it, and you also do some sessions where your intent is to remain in areas that you can't see and to just let the mind soak in there, a bit like if your mind was a liquid and your body was a sponge. Your body's a sponge, but it doesn't absorb the liquid very quickly. So the areas you can't see anything, you keep the mind there until that sponge absorbs more of the awareness. And then as the sponge gets more and more filled with that awareness, then you can see more and more of what's happening through the whole tissue. Some areas that are really hard are the spine is very hard. The hips are very hard because they're very complex. The shoulders are very difficult. The bottom of the neck is very difficult. So areas where there's like a lot of complexity are quite difficult. And then getting your mind into the cavities of the body is very difficult because they don't have as much sensation. So like feeling your liver, for example, is very hard to do because there's not much sensation in the liver. But feeling your heart, relatively speaking, is a bit easier because it's moving and it's doing stuff. And feeling your lungs is very easy because they move a lot. So you can get your mind into the tissue of the lungs pretty easy. And since the lungs are right on top of the lungs are right here. In the back, if this was the back of my body, they're mostly towards the back. And then the heart is right here. And so the left lung is smaller and wraps around the heart, which sits on this side of the chest. Unless you're weird and yours is over here, but most people's is on the left-hand side. So you can actually spend time also just letting your mind soak into the cavities of the body so that you can feel where the organs and everything are. And for those who are interested in that sort of thing, I don't teach it at that level of detail because you don't need it to gain concentration. But if you wanted later on to do meditation on selflessness, for example, it's really helpful to be able to feel all the, a huge amount of detail in terms of the parts of the body, because then you can go, well, is it in this part? And you can actually look at that part. You don't have to like imagine if it's in that part or not. You can look at it. You can look at your liver. You can look at your heart. You can look at your lungs. You can get at least a sense of where your large and small intestine are, where your stomach is, where your diaphragm is. And the way that I train people in body scanning in general, you probably noticed, I'm training you to be able to separate your arm from the body. Did you notice? The reason for this is because I'm training you eventually to be able to analyze your body to determine whether or not there's a self inside. Because if you get good at understanding, okay, my legs connect to my hips like this, which means that I could take my leg off the hip and the hip joint would still be there, and I can feel that part independently of the leg, the bone that's coming into the hip joint like this and running down my leg. And then you can go, okay, my leg, what if that wasn't there? Would I still exist? Yes, I would. Okay, so the self is not in the left leg. Okay, the right leg. I can feel the right leg. It starts in the right hip. There's the joint. Goes to the right foot, all the way to the toe tips. Okay, is the self in there? Well, if I lost the right leg, I would still exist, so it's not in the right leg. Okay, what about the hips? Of course, it'd be inconvenient if I lost the hips. Blah, 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 blah. And so you can actually take the body apart by feeling the parts that are actually there instead of imagining them. And therefore, the evidence that you use to establish selflessness becomes experiential and much more powerful instead of just a bunch of stuff you've imagined. So I'm actually training you guys, without telling you, I'm training you up to be able to do emptiness and selflessness meditations on the body and the mind. Ta-da! You're welcome. Like I've really done my best to try to make sure that the way that I'm teaching each aspect of this has tons of different layers that are built into the way it's being taught, so that by the time you get to a later practice that's more profound, you've built up skills, you've built up stuff that you didn't even know you built up. Chanting is good. Chanting is a very good practice, depending on what it is, As long as you're not chanting Hail Satan or something, If you're chanting something that's worth chanting, that's a good thing. But if you were chanting the name of Amitabha, or if you were doing Vajrasattva practice and you were chanting the mantra of Vajrasattva, or if you were doing Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, whichever version, there are other things too. I mean, also, again, I don't teach this, but if you were interested in things like Neigong, Qigong, some of the like Taoist internal arts that have to do with health or that sort of thing, though the way that you do those practices is you need to become aware of the body. The gateway to the subtle energies of the body is being able to feel the body. Once you can feel the body, then you start to feel that there are substances in different parts of the body. And then you learn how to grab onto those substances and do stuff with them, move them around and refine them and do various things. And then once you can do that, then you notice that there are even subtler substances in the middle of the body. And then once you can do that, you notice there are even subtler substances in the head. And so you go through a process of, through tactile awareness, becoming more and more aware of subtler and subtler types of substances associated with consciousness and physical stuff. And so that's how, like, full-on real qigong practice and neigong practice and certain parts of tantric practice in Buddhism also, that's how those work. It's not just like you have faith in it and it happens, or like you just put your attention somewhere in the body and visualize lights and it happens. Like you're actually working with these tangible substances you can grab onto using tactile awareness. Okay. Yeah. And then, as Earth Wombat very rightly said, you can apply these skills. Again, I'm just not telling you all the stuff you can do with the skills, but if with a high degree of tactile awareness and body scanning awareness and ability to move the mind through the body in various ways, you can do all of the different energy practice systems without much, you got to do some work still, but without as much hard work, because you're already aware of the body. This is why I say that the way I've put these together will allow you to train in any system. The only thing I'm not training you on in great detail is visualization, but if you gain enough concentration doing a whole bunch of other things, visualization will come pretty easy. So I'm sort of indirectly training you guys in visualization practices also. And then if you want to do recitation practices, it's just concentration on the sound, either verbally recited or mentally recited. And then along with the sound, you can also, in some chanting practices, there's like a particular thing you're doing with the mind with that chant. Like you're generating faith, or you're generating love, or you're generating humility, or something else with the chant, right? And so then you can take your awareness, and instead of just doing the verbal thing, you place your awareness on the humility as the object of meditation while the recitation is happening, and you abide, with maybe 70, 80, 90% of your awareness in a formless state of concentration on faith or love or humility or whatever. And that's a much more profound way to do your recitation practice, rather than 90% being here and 10% being on the emotion. See what I mean? Okay. Can meditation replace sleep? Is meditation why I won't burn out? Kidding aside, when I talk about rumination stuff and I say rumination is to replace all of the bullshit that's on the surface of your mind so that you can become more functional, that's what I'm talking about. If you replace the normal BS that's on the surface of your mind with motivations, intentions, attitudes, worldviews that really function well and make your mind function well, and that your attitude stays appropriate to the circumstance, then you just have way more energy to do stuff. In Buddhism, this is called joyous effort. That your mind is energized by doing things that are worth doing, by doing things that are meaningful, by doing things that have purpose. And therefore, you can do a huge amount of them without getting tired. You see? So again, rumination meditation at the end of the way that I'm teaching things here, you can then use to reshape all of this stuff on the surface of the mind so that you can be more functional. So that's more about having in the past retrained a lot of my worldview, attitude, motivation, and so on. And again, it's something attainable. It's like I'm a pretty ordinary person, and if you knew me in my 20s, if you knew me 20 years ago, I was a very ordinary person, and I'm still a pretty ordinary person. I have good days and bad days, and all of the same feelings that you guys have. But I also have some skills that make me able to do more stuff some of the time. Okay. Can meditation replace sleep? Yes, it can, but you have to be really good at it. So you need to have, for it to replace sleep, you probably need to be pretty close to actual concentration, which is at the far end of the process, not at the near end. So you probably need to be pretty close to the I don't know which jhana, but probably either definitely first jhana, maybe second jhana. We would just say, what do I say? Where it would replace sleep is when you have what's called mental and physical suppleness, which happens after you have not only perfected concentration, but spent so much time in concentration, it totally changes how your mind and your body work. And you achieve this capability that's called pliancy or agility of mind and body. And you can sit for days if you want, days and days and days, or even weeks or months if you want to, without sleeping or eating or drinking anything, which is what great yogis in the mountains do. Once you attain that level of concentration, you don't have to sleep. An example of this, since there's some concern in the comment section that this isn't possible, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who recently passed away, who was the head of FBMT, Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, for quite some time, he had this capability, and he was well known for. I got to visit his house, for example, in Santa Cruz. So he had a house in Nepal and another residence in Santa Cruz, and those were his two sort of home bases. And in his room in Santa Cruz, he didn't have a bed. He had his meditation cushion, and then everything was like all around was texts and holy objects and offerings of all sorts and relics from holy beings. And so it was just his cushion. And when I asked his attendants and the people that are around him all the time, 24 hours a day, everybody said, he doesn't sleep. At night, he sits and he does practice. He does his tantric sadhanas. He recites things. He doesn't sleep. And then they said sometimes you see him go like this for a few seconds on his cushion, and then he comes back, and then he goes on doing whatever he's doing. And so, he was well known to have overcome the need for more than, let's say, like 4 minutes of sleep at a time. Had overcome the need for sleep and didn't sleep for the better part of, I don't know, like 30 years or something. Really astonishing. But that requires that you've already accomplished a pretty high degree of concentration. I rarely dream. At least I'm rarely conscious of it. Will meditation make me dream more often? It could. It'll definitely has the potential to allow you to lucid dream because you'll become more aware of your mind. Have they studied sleeplessness in a lab? I don't think they've done any lab testing on it. They've done lab testing on a lot of other things, but they haven't done it on yogis who sit for that long. As far as I know, at least I haven't seen those studies. But this is a pretty well-known thing at the monasteries and stuff, where there's retreat huts near the monastery. There's people that do those kinds of practices, and it's not even. I mean, it is an accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like a side effect. It's not even seen as that big of a deal in a sense, because it's just a side effect of having concentration. And concentration is nowhere near the end of the path. That's just like a tool you need to carry on down the path. And so, yeah, there are yogis and meditators and things that are in those communities that are already doing those kinds of practices. So if you were to go to an environment where there are yogis and retreatants in long-term retreat near the monasteries and so forth, you will almost without a doubt find practitioners that are capable of that in retreat near the monastery doing those kinds of practices. Okay. All right, friends. We are getting into more theoretical stuff instead of things related to our own practice. So I think I'll wrap it up for the night. How good can you get as a layperson? You can get very good. Three of my teachers accomplished as lay people, actual full-on ability to do proper samadhis. So, you can go full on. You can go all the way, even all the way to the Buddhist time. There were great meditators who were lay people amongst his followers. The thing is, you'll probably need to train for a while and then do retreat and go much deeper in retreat and then maintain those results after you get out of retreat, because it's very difficult not in retreat to attain the deeper states of concentration for the first time. Once you have them, then you can maintain them out of retreat. But according to one or two of my teachers, when they did this as lay people, by the way, they had to attain it in retreat first and then carry it over into real life. But yeah, I mean, you can go basically as far as you want to go, as long as you have the time and the will and the whatever else, Okay, what do I do after waking up in the morning? Usually reply to comments on YouTube. Before my brain is firing on all cylinders, I do the least important thing. And then when my brain is woken up, then I do other things. Okay, friends, I'm going to wrap it up there because I can hear my wife getting a bit angry that I'm not finished. So thank you for coming. Hope to see you again soon. Try not to pass away before I see you again. Hope to see you again very soon. Talk to you later.